You did. I need to get started.
I think so. Yeah, I think we're unmuted.
Yeah. All right. Welcome, everyone. I'm Angela Winard, your EPBR president. I'm proud to welcome Rob Plume from the West Virginia Real Estate Commission. Our friendly auditor is here to give us some more additional education on the notice of agency changes. And this is our first time offering this type of education virtually. So here we go, and welcome, and thank you for presenting to us.
You're welcome. Thanks, Angela. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay? All good? All right. I'd like to see a thumbs up. Thanks for your time this afternoon. I appreciate it. So today we're just going to focus on the NOA. I'll talk about a few things, but please, please, please fire off any questions you have. That's why we're here today. And you'll want to fire them off to the chat, and we will track them all, and we will answer every question. If we don't, you can send me an Askeygram. No, I'm just kidding. Well, you can if you want. It's okay. So I'll just kind of kick things off a little bit with some of the calls we're getting at the commission, some common questions, and that hopefully sparks some discussion and some questions. So with that being said, let's go ahead and start the fun. And I'm going to start midway through our presentation. So just remember that some of these forms that we'll be showing you today are older versions of the NOA form, but it's still the same with just some typos and things like that. Because I always get that question when I teach, like, well, that's not the one online. It's like, very good for catching that, but the process is still the same, and that's what we want to focus on. Okay. So first thing, guide to agency. You know, I've done some audits since January 1st when we rolled out the new forms, and you are not required to do this form. However, we strongly, strongly recommend you do, because I think it makes your life a little easier. At least I hope it does. And that was the intent of developing this form with our commissioners. And y'all know Margie. But it really does help, particularly when you're dealing with someone that is like a for sale by owner. They don't understand that you're not representing them all the time. You're just representing your buyer. But I think when you have it in black and white, it makes it so much easier. And it helps you sell your value, in my opinion. So please use this. We do not look for it in audits, and it does not replace the NOA. However, I really do think, and I'm going to say it again, it makes your life easier. So please consider using it if you are not. So let's talk a little bit about some agency. You've got disclosed limited dual agency and disclosed designated dual agency. What's the key? What two words are in both of those terms of dual agency? I just said it. Dual agency. They're both forms of dual agency. You have your disclosed limited dual agency, which is pretty much what you had on the old form, right? It just didn't have that fancy name. It was just called dual agency. You checked there and you moved on. It's disclosed limited dual agency. That is, Margie and I work for the same company, you know, but we're just limited dual agents. Yeah, she has the buyer, I have the seller. Now, let's say Dawn is our broker. Margie and I work together. I have the seller, she has the buyer. Dawn will perhaps say, let's do designated dual agency, which if there are any brokers on the call, you're not required to do designated dual agency. It's an option for you to use, but what that does is it gives a little bit more agency law to you, if you will, to both sides of the transaction. We have to be confidential to each other, even though we're sharing the same roof at the same office. Okay. So again, brokers, you're not required to use disclosed designated dual agency, but it is there now. It is an option for you to use if you'd like to go down that route. And if you have any questions about that, throw those into the chat. If you could, please. And teams. We're talking about teams? All right, let's talk about teams. And so with designated, and I'll get to this in a second, but your designated dual agency, you cannot do that with teams. So park that thought and we'll get right back to it. But well, actually, there we are. So we all know what a team is. A team is kind of a subset of a brokerage, right? I've got my team, I've got Angela, Margie, I'm the team leader. You cannot do designated dual agency within that team, all right? I'm going to show you a slide in a minute why you cannot do that. So in that case, you would be stuck with using limited dual agency. Okay. And sorry, I'm trying to look at the camera, but I got people here. I naturally want to talk to people, so I don't mean to ignore you. All right. So customer level, this is really important when you're talking to that for sale by owner. You say, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, you don't want me to represent you. These are the duties I owe you. It's pretty basic. Then you say, but if you want me to represent you, look what else you get. Ta-da. You get all these things. All right. So that's why we say the consumer guide could be helpful in your business. So client level implies agency. Anytime you see client level, that implies agency, right? So I'm not going to harp on that anymore, I promise. But just remember, the guide to agency does not replace your notice of agency. It's just a nice additional piece. It's icing on the cake. Okay. All right. So this is the old form and the new form. We've got some different lines on there now, and I highlighted those in red. The big thing, the big question we're getting lately is what's that additional signature line for? And when do I use that? And why didn't y'all just put on there additional buyer's agent or seller's agent? Good question, and I'm going to explain that in a minute. All right. But it's there. So, but before we get into the changes, same old stuff, and I got to put my auditor hat on. Do not cross things out. Don't put your logo on it. Make sure you get the NOA from the other side of the deal. I'm representing the buyer. Margie's representing the seller. Boom. We're going to have each NOA in the file. I am going to sign her NOA, and she is going to sign mine. Where? On that additional signature line. All right. So just keep in mind, yeah, I mean, y'all been using it for, well, 3 months now. It's March already. So good job. I've done some audits around here. I think this area is doing very well with the NOA. So thank you for that. We're going to skip that today. Y'all know what it looks like when you take a listing. That's going to be your NOA. And y'all know when you represent a buyer, that will what the NOA will look like. Do you need a notice of agency with every buyer or agency agreement that you sign? You betcha. You betcha. Because the law says you have to have that agency discussion prior to any contract negotiation. A buyer agreement is what? A contract. A lease is what? A contract. A property management agreement is a contract. So when we come to audit, we're going to pull the file. We're going to look at your contracts, and we're going to make sure there's an NOA that is attached to that contract. And that's why we look at those dates, because that's going to have it on there. And that's going to tell us that John Doe probably had a buyer's agent, or do you call it a buyer agreement in this area? Yeah. It'll say, I'm going to look at that, and I'm going to look at the buyer agreement. Now, if John Doe signed his buyer agreement on 9/20, and your agency agreement is signed 9/25, got some explaining to do, Lucy. It's not a big deal, but I'm going to say, well, what happened? Why didn't you have that NOA signed when you had that contract signed? Because the law requires what? Agency before contract. Okay. And if you don't believe me, right there, that's right out of our law book. Agency form is required. All parties of the real estate transaction shall be signed by the licensee and the client at the time the agency relationship is created, prior to the initiation of contract negotiations. Bingo. That's why we look for it there. Okay. So make sure it's there. And then I highlighted, maintain a copy of each signed form in the transaction file. That's why we require both sides of the deal. We're looking for that NOA. Any questions rolling through yet?
Anything in the chat, DK? No, nothing.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about a few things we're seeing out there. Sorry. All right. All right, let's talk about a few things. Designated dual agency, teams, and co-agents.
You just have one come through.
Okay, what's the first question, please?
Should agents go backwards and get NOA for buyer agency agreements signed prior to 2025?
Excellent question. And the answer to that is no. You do not need to have that in there. If you look at your screen, because that is a common question. So any contract that was executed prior to January 1st of 2025, we're not going to make you go back and have a new NOA signed. Your broker may require it. Follow the rules of your broker. From a real estate commission perspective, it's okay, but please make sure you have that NOA in your file so I can compare it to when that contract was executed. So excellent question. Excellent question. And the reason why we're not making you go back, because y'all used to be in the business and I learned the hard way. If you start going back to your clients when they think everything's hunky-dory and say, oh, I miss you, I forgot to have you sign this form, what's going to happen? What else did you forget to have me sign? All right. So that's why we're not doing it. But just work with us. Make sure you've got that form in the file. All right. Now, with that being said, we got to put a little asterisk on it. Let's say you took a listing in November 1st of 2024. That listing expired this month. You're going back and you're doing what? You're getting an extension, hopefully. Bingo. That changed. You will need a new NOA for that. Okay? Because that's essentially a new contract, right? So keep the old one in the file and have your new one in there, the date you assign the extension. Same goes with leases. When someone renews a lease, same goes with a property management agreement if they renew that. So excellent question. Okay. I'm going to go back a little, bear with me here. All right. Designated dual agency. That's the fancy agency. I'm going to start calling it fancy agency. All right. Fancy dual agency. I asked AI, like, okay, help me understand this better because I'm not an attorney. And it kicked this back about dual agency. Long story short is a broker cannot be a disclosed dual agency. I'm the broker. I've got 20 agents underneath me. By law, I'm required to know what all those 20 people are doing. I'm responsible for everything they do. How can I, as a broker, be impartial? How can I, I'm just going to know things inherently that maybe an agent doesn't about each of those clients. And it puts, if I'm representing the seller as the broker, as the designated dual agency, it puts the buyers at an unfair advantage, right? So that's why as a broker, you can never designate yourself as a disclosed designated dual agent, okay? So that if you think of that with teams on the next slide, think of a team leader. They're probably going to know. So teams cannot designate parties in their team to be designated dual agents. You're stuck with limited dual agency when you're in a team sale. Okay. So just replace the word broker with team leader, and it kind of clears it up a little bit. All right. So what is a team? Well, we actually have a definition. LR means legislative rule, which if you sat through one of my classes before, thinking legislative rule is just a little bit extra explanation about the 3040- whatever of the real estate license law. So a team includes any group of 2 or more associate brokers and or salespersons and other non-licensed professionals, transaction coordinators, affiliated with the same broker or company, acting as one agent or representative of the principal. Okay, so that is your actual legal, West Virginia legal definition of a team. And then specific legislative rules on teams. So again, LR 174-1-16. A member of a team must be listed on or attached to any notice of agency relationship form signed by a team member. So I get this question a lot. All right, well, if I'm representing a buyer and we're doing our NOA as we should, prior to our buyer broker agreement, if I have to wait for all 16 members of my team member to sign that addendum, it's going to take forever. You don't need to have all 16 members sign it. You can have just a list of all the people that are on that team and attach it to your NOA. Okay. Question.
Got a question in here.
Mm-hmm.
What about in the event that a broker represents multiple brokerages and the brokerage is doing a transaction with a brokerage that has the same broker? Should it be signed as dual agency? Phew, that's a tough one for you, buddy.
That's a tough one. And I think I've been asked that question before. And my initial reaction is to get with Anthony, our attorney. And I think I may do that. and I think I did before, and I can't remember what the answer is, but in my opinion, you're inherently going to have that information regardless of what company you're with.
Mhm.
Can we park that one?
Yes, well, and in my thought, and I could be completely wrong, but we're actually, well, it's the same broker.
Mm-hmm.
He is brokeraging two different companies.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how would company A be affected by company B? That's, I think, the question.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
if we get clarification. on
Yeah,
that,
I'll send some clarification, and I'm sorry, y'all. I'm kind of limited on what I can talk about with agency law because we can't give legal advice to the commission. But that is an excellent question and one that's very pertinent to this area because I know you have brokers that are brokers for multiple companies. So I'm sorry I can't answer that today, but we will get you the answer on that one. Go right ahead.
This is what I think the real question is. The law directs a supervising broker as the responsible party in the agency transaction. I think in that definition, it would absolutely be disclosed to an agency.
Yeah.
Because that broker would be the supervising broker in charge of documents and relationships in both firms. That's my answer.
I'm agree with that
Yeah.
95%.
95%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But I think you're right. I think you're right.
I think the key is what the law says about the broker.
Yeah. I think
And the broker, obviously in 30/40/19, the broker can be brought before the commission
Mm-hmm.
for failure to supervise.
Yep.
So I think in the supervisory capacity, that broker may very well be a disclosed.
Yeah.
It may make all the parties a disclosure list.
I think.
Well, and then especially if the transaction that's going on is from two different companies, but the same broker, then that's where the real issue becomes.
Yeah.
Whether it is to.
But we'll double check with you.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'll double check. And like Marty said, we'll double check and then we'll let everyone know. But that's an excellent question. That's a good one.
And it's really pertinent to the Eastern Canyon.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No more,
Okay.
no more yet.
No more yet. Okay. All right. So co-listing agents and co-buyer reps. What do we mean by that? Non-team members. Angela, I'm going to pick on you. Let's say I'm listing a house in Jefferson County, but I live in Martinsburg and I kind of know Jefferson County, but I don't know it well, but I want to bring Angela in with me. We're not on the same team, but we happen to be working for Martin. All right. So, hey, Angela, will you split this with me? Well, you live close to the listing, perhaps you can be there. So we're co-listing. All right. We're not a team. How the heck are we going to do our NOA? And you probably come across this in this area from time to time, right? All right. So is that how we're going to do our NOA? We've got, I think that's Joe Schmo as the seller. All right. Is that how we're going to sign our NOA? No bueno. No, this is how you're going to do it. Like that. They sign on the same line. That's how it's going to be. Because where's that buyer's agent going to sign? Right? So that tells the seller, if you look at that form, in this example, Carrie and Rob are representing the seller. And we're letting the buyer's agent know that as well. So that's how you want to do that form. Because there are only 2 spots to sign. So we got to conserve a little space there. Right? Any questions about that? Same thing. Do y'all team up sometimes for buyer agreements? You're not on a team, but yep. So same thing, just change out seller lessor to buyer lessee. Okay. We're getting that question frequently. So think of it this way. You share the client, you share the same line. That's just that's how I remember it in my head. So you share the client, you're sharing the same line. All right, and we talked about that already. Okay.
Can you have each agent get a separate NOA sign?
So when you're talking about co-listers or co-buyers, yeah, if you can, I mean, we're not going to document that, but I think for paperwork ease, it would just be easier for y'all to just has signed the one form. You know, there's less confusion that way, I think, because you're giving that copy to your seller. You got both your names on it. I think it'd just be easier to share one form. That's my opinion, and that's what I would expect to see. But by having two separate ones, is it wrong? No. Is it potentially more confusing? Maybe. So just keep it simple.
Two more questions, just came.
Okay.
So I work on a team. Do both teammates need to sign the NOA, or can they just be listed together on the form and one of us signs the NOA?
So, okay, let me just talk it through to make sure I understand the question correctly. So we're co-buyers reps, but we happen to be under a team. When I go to audit, I'm probably looking to see if the team leader signed that NOA. And then I'm just gonna look to make sure both names are on the attachment on the back. Maybe circle it if you want to be clear.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I think that's fine.
But the reality is, each team member.
Exactly, yeah. Did that answer their question?
Hopefully,
Okay,
you find it.
okay.
Just as a team would only one agent need to sign, and neither could be designated. This is from Mr. Boswell.
Okay.
Just as a team would only one agent need to sign, that's the question, and neither could be designated
Within the team.
within the team. Yeah.
You can't have designated agency within the team. Yeah,
One agent inside.
yep, one agent can sign it. Mhm.
Neither could be designated. That's the correct answer to that. All right, the next question is, why are the agents from both sides signing each other's NOA? And when is the ideal time to do this? With the buyer's contract offer submission?
Yes, to that question first, because remember, NOAs are required prior to contract negotiations. And I think you all up here do a pretty good job of putting your NOAs with your listings in bright. So if you're printing everything else out, why not print out that listing agent's NOA, have your buyer sign at that point and send it over? So that's part one of the question. Well, that was the second part. Let's go back to the first part.
Yeah.
And what was the first one again?
Okay, and then, when is the ideal time to do this to get the signature, with the buyer's contract offer submission?
Yeah.
So you would probably want the co-broking agent to sign when you send the offer over,
Yeah.
because they're gonna be representing the contract
Right,
to their client.
right.
I think the first question was.
So
Yeah.
that's a good question. That's okay. Let me go back. I got a little fancy slide on. So the reason why you have to sign those now, which is really the only change in procedure, right? If you think about it, since the other one is the commission wants to make sure that everybody knows who is representing whom. You know, yes, your buyers always have to sign the listing agent's NOA, right? But now you have to sign it. Okay. Slap your John Henry or Hancock on there and call it a day. That way everybody knows who's representing whom. And you might ask, well, why? Well, you would be surprised at the number of times at the commission where we get calls, typically from a buyer, and is really grumbling about the listing agent side. They don't even know who the listing agent is, or vice versa. Now we know. Now we know. Okay. So that's your only change, really the only change in process per se, when you think about it with a new NOA form. So let's see, did I get back to that? Yep, so there you go. Just another signature, y'all. Just another signature.
So this question just came in with regards to this same subject.
Okay.
So the selling agent should sign every single offer notice of agency regardless of acceptance?
No. I mean, if it's accepted, okay, it depends on how in the weeds you want to be, right? You can. You should probably, now that I think about it, because in the law, it says you have to have that agency presented prior to contract negotiation. So whether or not that offer was accepted, you're still negotiating the contract, right? So yes, yep,
And let me jump in here.
mhm,
And the other question I've had is, you mean that I have to have a notice of agency for every house I show? No, that's not what we've told you.
mhm,
You have to have a notice of agency to accompany your buyer agency contract.
mhm.
You have to have a notice of agency that accompanies your seller contract, your exclusive right to sell.
Mhm.
And then when you write an offer for the buyer, the notice of agency needs to accompany it.
Mhm.
Either the original notice of agency or a blank notice of agency that you fill out.
Mhm.
And keep your original,
Mhm.
but a blank one that you fill out with your offer documents.
Yeah, thanks for adding that, because at the commission, we don't require you to do buyer's agency agreements. What? No, that's an NAR thing. They're actually, we figured this out the other day, 27% of licensees in the state of West Virginia do not belong to NAR. Therefore, they're not subject to the results of that lawsuit.
Yeah,
So sometimes I do get a deer in the headlights look when people start asking me about showing agreements and things. It's something we don't deal with at the commission level. So thank you for chiming in and adding that. Appreciate it.
and the reality is that may change this year for licensees, and the WVREC will let you know if that makes it through the legislature.
If there is a push, thank you, there is a push to require all licensees to do buyer agreements to level the playing field, if you will. But until then, until that day happens,
That's right.
it is what it is right now.
This question is, I work in new home sales in an office with two of us.
Okay,
We both print our names on the top line and both sign the first signature line before putting in MLS. Is this correct?
I would think so. You're basically co-listing agents, right?
Yeah.
Mhm. Yep, good question. Mhm.
Okay,
All right.
you.
Mix up with the
With that?
line one.
Oh, yeah. Let's do that. Okay. Bear with me, y'all. So we created these scenarios. Do this, let's be faster. Of things where we expected to see in the field when we audit, and we are seeing them. This, by the way, what I'm looking at, what I'm flipping through here is our actual CE class we give at the commission level. So if you're interested in that, just follow us on Facebook and you might be able to attend one of our classes. I know I'll be in Parkersburg April 6th, I think. And then down in Kanawha Valley, we're teaching the same class on the 20th, I think. But anyhow, so that's where it's a 3.5 hour class. That's why I'm jumping through here. So some potential mistakes we see and we'll probably see at the top there, seller lessor and buyer lessee. Well, what does that mean? Who you're representing. You can't represent both. If you are, then maybe this should be one of these options should be selected. So we're seeing that. And then, or I've seen this already. How can you be a buyer lessee representing that? And then you're saying you're limited dual agent. It's one or the other. It's just one or the other. And we're going to go into more detail on these lines. I'm seeing this as well. You can't be designated dual agent for one and then again limited for another. So that won't happen. You've got two agents here. So they did designated and then agent one and agent two sign. That's a big no bueno. So let's go. So here's a fun little way to kind of help understand the NOA a little better, perhaps. Think about 4 lines. When you look at that form, see the 4 lines. And if there's any change I'd like to see on the NOA, actually number those lines. But for now, line 1, 2, 3, and 4. So think of that. Line 1, only one option, and the only other line that works for 1 is line number 3. What's line number 3? Unrepresented, which you do have in this area, particularly with new home construction, right? How many times do you think a buyer walks into that new home construction talks to the friendly sales agent and thinks that friendly sales agent is representing them, more often than not. Now it's on the form. Now they're going to see they're unrepresented. So in that case, the new home sales agent is going to select seller, and then buyer is unrepresented. So line 1 only works with line number 3. Okay. Line number 2, 1 option, 2 NOAs in the deal. Why? Let's take a look at that. Designated dual agent. The scenario with Margie and I. She's going to have her NOA representing the buyer that says she's designated dual agent. I'm going to have my separate NOA, not on the same form, saying I represent the seller as a designated dual agent. When we come to audit, we're probably going to see 2 separate files, right? If it's a pending deal, if it's closed, it might be combined, but we're going to look for both of those NOAs in there. Okay. So line 2 doesn't work with anyone else. We see anything on line 2 selected. We shouldn't see any other options selected. Line number 3, only 1 option and only 1 NOA. Let's take a look at line number 3 again. Unrepresented. So that could be with option 1, right? But I don't ever expect to see a situation where both the seller and the license and the buyer are unrepresented at the same time. And then line number 4, limited dual agent. So 1 option because there's only 1 company, right? The essence of dual agency is 1 company. Again, it gets a little, you can get in the weeds real quick on this. It can limited dual agency confused with designated. Designated dual 2 agents. Same company, all right? Does that help? Is that good? So always take a look at that. And I think if you want, I could probably send that part over to y'all if you want to put it on your.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got a new question.
Okay.
The old NOA is still on the commission website.
What?
In addition to the new NOA, because they're different form, will the old NOA be removed?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you for bringing that out. I thought we got them all, but we didn't. So thank you. Thank you, whoever sent that in.
Okay. That's all the questions so far. I don't know if there's any scenarios that we could bring up.
Yeah. Screen share, go. Okay.
Anything outside of agency that you're seeing on audits or in the commission complaints that we should be aware of?
Yes.
Like updates.
So, particularly in this area, just because you have your broker's license in West Virginia doesn't mean that 6 of your agents in Maryland can go on listings in West Virginia. Yes, you as a broker are licensed in West Virginia. Those 6 agents are not. So you don't get some blanket protection. What you're doing is you're putting your West Virginia license at risk for employing unlicensed individuals. That is explicitly prohibited in our code in at least 4 places that I can think of off the top of my head. That's license lending. So none of that. No bueno. New home builders, I'm just heads up. I'm going to be making some stops this week. I've been receiving copies of NOAs that don't look anything like the West Virginia Real Estate Commission NOAs. And you have to start using the West Virginia Notice of Agency form. So that's one. The second thing is advertising is still an issue sometimes where you have your name and it should be right immediately after your name, comma, or whatever, right after your license title. So Rob Plume, salesperson, then realtor, greatest uncle in the world, whatever. I don't care, but I'm looking for that salesperson name after. That's what that is per code. That needs to be on that. That's nothing new. That has been in the code since a long, long time. Okay, so that please correct your advertisements when it comes to that. Right. Same with the so associate broker and brokers have always, if you've sat through one of my audits, you know I'm checking to see that you have the word broker after your name in your ads, your signs, and your social media. that applies to salespeople. Teams, I will give you kudos in this area. For a while, there was a problem where teams were coming across as a standalone real estate company. The Teams memo in 2023, I think, helped that. But if you're still seeing issues where it looks like a team is the actual company when it's not, then I need to know about those. But I haven't really received many complaints about that recently. So I'm assuming it's better, but tell me otherwise if it is not. The code says that the team and the broker must be in equal prominence in all ads. Am I going out there with a ruler and measuring? No, but common sense. If someone has to get out of the car or look at the ad, need a magnifying glass to look at it to see who the broker is or the company, that's no bueno. Okay, use some common sense. You don't want the public to think that the team is a standalone company. If you want to have a standalone company, by all means, please obtain your broker's license and open it up. Okay. I think you saw a question coming in.
Got a new question here. You mentioned when there is a listing agent and a co-listing agent, we should sign on the same line. All of the electronic sites do not allow that to happen. Is there a way to update the form to allow these platforms to sign same line?
We'd have to take a look at that, but I thought DocuSign and Zip forms allowed you to move the fields to where you want people to sign. So I guess I would need to know what platform doesn't allow that, but I mean, and then we did get the question earlier, could you use two forms in that case? Maybe that's a case where you do, but.
The other thing I've seen happen is that the agent actually in handwriting fills in the second agent sign.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what I do as the transaction coordinator. I'm the one preparing and handling all the documents. So the agent representative signs on the top line, and then of course his name and my name or whoever are on the first line. And then I just attach an electronic signature underneath the second licensee so that my name is on the form. And you haven't told me I can't do that, so.
There's not an assigned area.
Right. Yeah, that's okay. I think we got another question.
Yes, we do. Let's see. Let's see. They came on top of each other, but that's more the same. Then here, this says, so just to be clear, we always sign the other brokerages, agents, NOA, and if disclosed designated dual agents, both agents sign on the same form when re-disclosing. Hope that made sense.
So let me pull up my examples just to make sure. So we got designated. No, you need two separate forms. Yeah, let me share the screen again because that's a good question and I want to make sure we have that covered. So again, with designated dual agency, think two different agents. You just happen to be in the same company. So you're under the same roof, so you get that fancy moniker of designated disclosed dual agency. But in effect, you are working separately, right? You're not sharing. You're being keeping your files separate, like good licensees and all that good stuff. So each of you would need your own designated dual agency NOA, because that's why on the new form, see here, you got two lines. So the designated dual agent for the seller is going to select that option. Seller is going to sign there. That seller is going to sign. Then the buyer's designated dual agent has their own NOA. Two agents designated. You got that hard line between the two of you. You each need your own NOA. The buyer's designated dual agent is going to select that. They're going to sign over there, and then they're going to sign.
So both agents sign both NOA, but on a designated agency, there are two.
Yep.
In a disclosed limited dual relationship, you can share an NOA, but not in designated.
Yep. Yeah, that's the only time where there'll be one anyway. So that was one of the. Yeah, that was one of those options in there, but good question, good question.
Does the buyer and seller sign on both forms? Yes.
Yes, yeah, just like you do now.
Like you have.
Yeah, just like you have, that has not changed. Only thing that has changed is the agents will sign each other's, or the licensees will sign each other's. Good question.
See if anything else pops up.
Okay. What else did I want to talk about?
We're gonna touch on that case that we had about. No, we don't.
Oh, I can.
Yeah.
Come on.
We
So-
can bring it up, we can, but you can.
All right, when we're talking about chickens. Talking about chickens, you know, the commission doesn't have any, we don't set chickens, commissions, none of that. We don't make decisions on chickens and commissions and things like that. We don't make rulings on those. However, there is a provision of the code that if you as licensees in a particular deal agree upon a particular chicken, that cannot be changed without the written consent of the other licensee. And we just had a case, it's out on our disciplinary actions page, where the listing agent called the title company and said, oh, that's not correct, it should be this. The title company changed it for a much lower amount than what the buyer's agent was expecting chicken wise, that was even written in the contract as such. Changed it, went to closing, and now they're disputing it. That listing agent that unilaterally changed the chicken received a consent decree. Because it's in the code that you cannot change that without written knowledge prior to closing. So that's a really good one, and thank you.
Change the terms of the sales.
Change the terms of the sales.
Change the- Agent and I change the terms of the sales.
If you all aren't looking at them, you really should. On the website, disciplinary actions under commission, just peek out there from time to time. There's some good things out there, and it's not meant to embarrass anyone or, uses ammo against them. It's really there for you to to learn, so that you don't make the same mistakes. So I encourage you to look at those.
Give, just with the nonsense of, we're looking at folks who are not licensed.
Oh, property dangerous?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's talk about property management a little, because the market's taken a little shift, and it's been my experience that when maybe sales inventory is down, people hop into property management because in West Virginia, we do not require a property management license. However, you do have to have a real estate license to do real estate, and that real estate license technically allows you to do property management. But don't do a side hustle. If you're a licensee, you better get with your broker, and you better explain to your broker and talk to your broker to see if they will allow you to do property management under the existing company. You don't go out and you open up your own company out here and your broker's over here and you've created some shell company where you're doing property management. No. Everything you do has to run through your broker. If your broker doesn't allow it, then what you do is you can stay with them, but you get a broker to run that company over there and or get your own broker's license. But just because you have your real estate license doesn't mean you can do property management on the side for others. And we really beefed up last year in the last legislative act. It's in the first part of the law. We have defined exactly what property management means. So please take a look at that. It's very detailed. All right. So Airbnb host, super host, what's the other term? Greeters. Guess what? If you look at that term for property management under the West Virginia Licensing Act, you need to have a license. Unless it's your own rental property. But when you start managing for other people and getting paid for it, it's a whole new ballgame.
Got any thoughts on commercial?
Commercial, there's no separate commercial license, But that doesn't mean commercial real estate is, in the eyes of West Virginia, is any different from residential real estate. West Virginia has always taken the position that real estate is real estate. So commercial brokerage, although I know the business is a little different, a lot different, it's still real estate at the end of the day. So yes, you need a notice of agency with your real estate listing or your commercial real estate listings, commercial real estate sales, and commercial real estate leases.
No new questions.
Again,
Oh, one just came through.
Oh,
Okay.
Working in new home sales, if I am doing a contract remotely, I don't have the tools to download the NOA for the buyers to sign the NOA right away. So what I do is send the buyer's agent and have them download and have them get the buyers to sign. So the dates are usually later than the contract date. Does this cause a problem?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it does, unfortunately. And I would need to get some more information as to why you would be unable to send the NOA with the contract. Because in my mind, if you can send a contract out, you should be able to send an NOA. Unless I'm missing something. And honestly, I'm not trying to be smart, but unless I'm missing something, I would need to understand why, you know, I would need to look at that situation. Surely, I'm not trying to be smart. I can't reconcile the fact that if you could send a contract out first, well, you can't. So I'd have to get some more info. So whoever sent that question, if you want to email us, that's fine.
The only thing I can think, Rob, is, like, for example, are important, they may have a program where they can't modify additional documents in suites, and they can't add anything in.
but their suite should already have the notice of
Oh,
agency.
correct,
Yeah.
correct. No, I get that. That's just.
Sounds like that might be the process there.
Oh, they just said our contract automatically goes to DocuSign,
Okay.
but we cannot add docs to DocuSign.
Well, why wouldn't the NOA be in that in contract packet when it's required?
Yeah, I think the question we have from here is the seller's NOA in the contract package?
It is not. We have
Or are you
tried to
talking about
give
the
them,
buyer's NOA?
Well, the first question was, so, I don't have the tools to download the NOA for the buyer to sign. This is somebody working in new homes, sales office. And so what I do is send to the buyer's agent and have them download and have them get the buyers to sign. Well, frankly, the buyer's agent should have shown up with the buyer's
Yeah,
notice of agency if they knew the buyer was gonna write a contract,
Yeah.
seemingly.
yeah, what I would say is this, it sounds like what we're dealing with is that in the suite of forms, the seller/builder's NOA is in the suite of forms. And I think the rep is saying, but the buyer's NOA is not there, and I don't have it. Yeah, and you can't, and probably can't add it to that suite of forms, which I get. Okay? So the buy side agent then has the responsibility to make certain that as the documents get signed on the seller side, that the buyer agency form gets signed subsequently at the same time, and then it all goes back to the seller/builder.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah. But see, the code is the code, you know?
Yeah,
It doesn't say unless in the
Yeah.
event of a builder.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
prior to contract negotiations,
Yeah.
so that's something maybe, you know, the broker may want to contact me and we can kind of figure out what needs to be done.
So we have two things. One says we do not have buyer agent forms, we have a seller.
New home construction.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then somebody else said she recommended to tell the new salesperson to contact their admin to add it to their package.
Yeah.
To be added to that.
Good question.
Yeah,
Good question.
that answers both of those.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I have, a transaction coordinator has sent me a question.
Okay.
And he says, please clarify the need for a new NOA when agency extended, not expired. S- So I believe the question is actually, listing was taken in November. It's not gone under contract and it's time to expire and or renew. So the extension is coming to continue the existing listing.
Which is a renegotiation.
Which is a renegotiation because that's opened the door. And now, because of this situation, we are gonna need the new notice of agency because now we're in a new listing agreement.
Prior to contract negotiation. Yeah.
Okay. Throw in a twist. Here we go, here we go. We have a listing that we took January 2, 2025, and we have the, but, okay? And it was a 60-day listing and it's expiring today, and I'm gonna do an extension. Do I do a new notice of agency or can I use mine that is the current form?
Still, in my mind, it's a renegotiation. Yeah.
It's a good answer. Yeah.
Sure.
It may not seem like a renegotiation, but it is,
Yeah.
right? It is a renegotiation.
The seller actually signs the extension, they could come back to me and say, hey, let's talk about your chickens. And so now it's a whole new deal.
That's right.
So, yeah, okay, makes good
Because it
sense.
has nothing to do with the old form versus the new form. It has to do with an extension is a renegotiation of an existing contract.
Correct. I'm still talking, but I'm gonna go get some water. So keep your questions coming. Brokers. Please, when I call for an audit request, please try to get back to me as soon as you can. Because, it's kind of a domino effect. If you're the first appointment I have that morning scheduled, I can't book the other ones until I hear back from you. And please understand that, I can't just easily say, oh, let's do it next week instead, because I live in Charleston. So when I'm in this area, it's just, I got one shot until the next time I come up. So I understand I understand people have lives. I get it. And I think any of you that have worked with me know that we try to be as accommodating as we can, but please work with us too. Technically, we don't need to call for an appointment. We can just show up, but we don't like to do that. I don't like to surprise people. So just please work with me. And I understand you may be licensed in other states that haven't audited you. However, West Virginia, we do audit. So every 2 to 3 years. Just have that one simple request. Oh, not presenting offers. Let's talk about that.
Why would that happen?
Yeah, that's what so let's say you have a seller that says, I don't want to see any listings under $350,000. And you get an offer for $325,000. Yeah, they don't want to see any offers under $350,000. Yeah, they don't even show them to me. Right? But you get an offer for $325,000. Are you going to show that sellers that offer?
Yes.
You betcha. I don't care. Put it in an email. Here's an offer by West Virginia law. I'm required to present all offers to you. Because if you look at the code, it says must present all offers, period. Does not say must present all offers unless otherwise instructed. It's period. You have to present that offer. We've got a case. I think we're going to get a complaint on it. They had the house listed for $400,000. It finally sold at $325,000. And so, yeah, they were holding firm to that $400,000. We know how that goes, right? And then sold for $325,000 6 months later. The sellers were at Walmart, and one of the friends came up and said, hey, how come you didn't take my cousin's offer of $350,000? And the seller said, what offer for $350,000? And the agent, when we called him, said, well, they told me not to present any offers under. Yeah, people change their minds, right? You know, we've all had those listings where I know I'm going to get 400 on the dot on this one. 8 months later, they're selling it for 299, right? People's opinions change. So just for as licensees, just know that you have to present all offers, period. Even the ridiculous ones, when you have a house listed for 500 and someone gives you $50,000 cash, close tomorrow offer, you still have to present it, unfortunately.
We just have written versus verbal offers, are they different in the law regarding this?
We're kind of segueing into some legal stuff I can't answer, but I will say this. The code does specify all offers must be in writing. So that's what we drive from. So I know that's a vague answer to your question, but all offers must be in writing. Yeah, that's the commission answer. Broker NAR requirements might be a little different.
I might receive an offer in writing and another agent calls and says, hey, do you have any offers? And I would probably respond, yes, and wait for the next question.
Smart thing to do.
Then another agent calls and says, hey, I just want to feel you out. Do you think that your seller would be interested in blah, blah, blah? And I would respond, of course, please put it in writing. But at the same time, I already have a written offer that I'm going to present. I'm probably going to mention to my seller that, oh, by the way, I got a call. This is another potential scenario. Should I tell them to put it in writing and send it or not? You know, because it has been thrown out there.
Oh, sure. I'm sure.
And I don't want my seller to think, well, tell them something that I knew. So I think you have to handle that as it comes with
Your broker's attention.
yes.
Yeah, your broker. Well, y'all have brokers if you're not a broker. I mean, there's a reason, you know, your broker is there to guide you, mentor you, and that's a perfect example to talk to them about it.
Can you talk about EMD
EMD.
in regards to like salespeople? Because I know in Brokers Cloud, there's a lot about the importance of it.
Thank you.
Got you.
Yeah, thank you. That's what the other thing I want to talk about too. Earnest money deposits. Okay, let me start with this. I'm old school. If any of you sell my house and I'm the seller, you're getting me EMD. I'll put that out there. I believe in it. I'm old school like that. Okay, so let's talk about EMD because it has been a problem and we are addressing it. If your contract says there's a $5,000 earnest money deposit to be deposited in 3 days, and I don't care, and let's say it's with an attorney, then by golly, it better be in that deposit within 3 days. Okay? I don't care if the buyer lives out of state or whatever. It's got to be in there. When we come to audit and we see that it wasn't deposited until 2 weeks later, we're going to ask you why. And you've just opened yourself up to potential commission initiated complaint. We've got to stop having this lackadaisical attitude, and once the contract's accepted, all we care about is the home inspection and the appraisal. That earnest money is important. If that term says deposit in 3 days, deposit it in 3 days. If for some reason it doesn't, then you probably will want to do an addendum or something so that all parties know. Here's why. We've had calls at the commission where sellers call us and they are absolutely irate because the deal went south and they were expecting a $5,000 earnest money and they want it, and they called their listing broker and the listing broker said, oh, geez, it was never deposited. Seller didn't know. They were going along on their happy little land thinking that money's there. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to recover my damages for cleaning my house and moving out. You know? So folks, like, I'm not trying to make light of this, but seriously, if your contract says that, do it. And I know, particularly in this area, a lot of brokers don't have earnest money anymore. That's fine. You're not required. But if it goes to an attorney, you can't tell me an attorney isn't. You couldn't get from the attorney some type of receipt, some type of acknowledgement. Put that in your file, please.
Well, Rob, you mean you're not just gonna take the fact that I put a copy of the check in the file, okay?
Love you like a sister, but you But, you know, seriously, it's like,
The check doesn't do it.
no, you gotta show that it was deposited. You're representing your seller, right? Part of that representation is protecting their interest. How are you protecting their interest when you don't even know that the other side made that earnest deposit? You're not. I'm sorry. You know? And if you're the buyer's agent, I get it too. I understand. It's hard because you have buyers, particularly in this area, that live out of state. You know, you got the deal done, you got the contract accepted, and they go home and they're thinking about painting the walls and everything else, and they forget about that earnest money. But buyer's agents, you have that responsibility because you're there to represent your buyers to make sure they're fulfilling the terms of the contract, right? So if you know they can't mail it in till a week later, put it in your offer. The buyers will mail check no later than you're covered, right? So, question.
Yeah, I think we have answered this, but I'll read it again.
Okay.
When you extend or amend a listing agreement,
Mhm.
do we have to do a new NOA to get the updated NOA form? Or do we always have to get a new NOA for listing, et cetera, extensions, even if we already are using the updated NOA?
You're renegotiating that original contract. So renegotiation, that's the key there, negotiate. Prior to contract negotiations, you're gonna need a new notice of agency.
Anything else?
Thanks, everybody. From the Education Committee, this is Margie. From the Education Committee, we hope that today was valuable to you. This is our first ever Zoom with the West Virginia Real Estate Commission for members. We've had them in broker class. Only in class, actually. So, hope this was valuable, and if it was, let EPBR know that, and, we'll talk to you. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Have that. For sending me email that you have that one, and I'm gonna just copy the one about here. Okay, so you have it, so.
Appreciate it.
I know at the beginning of the week, a lot of stuff happens.
Yeah.
It's there.
Yeah.
I think you have your